don't quit and work hard. This is a very anything in life is it just takes persistence and hard work, and just go for it. Don't ever stop. And if you want something, don't stop until you get it. That's probably the best thing I can say.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset, everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer. Be sure to head over to clicksandbricksacademy.com so you can access all the resources to start improving your sales today.
Welcome back to Clicks and Bricks. Today I have John Medina from John Medina Buys Houses. He's in Orange County, California, and he's got a lot of great advice for us today. But before we bring John on, if you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. You can send me any question you want about business or technology, and I'll give you a completely free, unbiased answer. How are you doing today, John?
Great, Ken. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us today. I know you're a busy guy, so let's jump right into it. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what it is exactly that you do for a living?
Yeah, so I live here in San Pedro, California, which is in Los Angeles. So I'm married, my wife Yvette, and I have a 12-year-old son, Christian. And we basically flip houses. And we have a team that works with us. My wife is a designer. I have a partner, Ricky Magana, that's an agent. We have Peggy and Brian, and Peggy's in sales, Brian's the admin, and Stephanie's in sales too. And a guy named Jonathan that's recently boarded, he does our dispositions for us. So yeah, it's great. We got a pretty good team here, and we're just having a lot of fun and just flipping houses. That's it.
Fantastic. So at the end of the day, basically you buy houses, you fix them up or maybe not, and then you sell them to somebody else. You find them a new forever home, hopefully. Or a new forever family, right? To live inside of it. Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. So you got into this business, I think you said 2013, 2014. Can you tell the audience a little bit about your transition? Because you were a contractor before, so you knew a lot about construction, which probably helped a lot in this industry. But can you tell a little bit about what prompted this transition to being an entrepreneur and going into this full time? From being a contractor where you kind of had a job and, kind of steady pay, and now you're on your own, having to make it all happen every single day for yourself.
Yeah, I was a plumbing contractor. I got into that when I first got out of high school. I did plumbing for about 4 years, worked for a couple of companies, and I just decided I wanted to go on my own. And that's kind of actually when I started being an entrepreneur, right? I just even before that, I had a bunch of stuff that I was always trying to hustle and do things. But I basically just did that for about 25 years. I had a plumbing business, and come about 2012, I had some money saved and I wanted to buy some rental units. The market was depressed a little bit, it was down. And it made sense here in California because, California is super expensive. It's hard to get cash flow out of these units. So anyways, I bought one unit, one house that kept as a rental, and then I bought 2 or 3 and 4, and then I was taking some classes on figure out how to flip houses, and I just finally said to myself, wow, this seems like a lot more fun than doing plumbing at this point. Plumbing, I was like a construction guy, and I did bigger industrial commercial. I didn't really do residential, but I just wanted to change, and I just decided, you know what, I have these houses that I bought as rentals. I mean, I've turned them into, I did the construction to fix them up because they were pretty beat up. And I was like, hey, I might as well just do this full time. And I just basically went for it in 2014.
Fantastic. So, and just so the audience has a little bit, I'm going to date this episode quite a bit because I think dating this episode is important.
Sure.
We're recording this episode in December of 21, late December of 21, but it's going to air in late January of 22. Now, we've seen a lot of changes, like breakneck speed changes in the real estate market over the past 12 months post COVID transaction, right? So, and I think it's been 30% increase in real estate property values. Is that roughly the number over from pre-pandemic to post-pandemic?
Yeah, and I don't know if that's, we've had some appreciation, that's for sure. It's been favorable,
and it's been rapid,
right?
Yes. So you probably got pretty lucky sitting on some property that you had before then when these prices went up. How do you calculate those, for black swan events? Do you budget those in for the future, or do you just say, hey, this is an anomaly and the world isn't going to stay at these kinds of margins, right? Because you just probably saw a 30% uptake in revenue that's greater than what you expected.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting, when COVID hit, we didn't have a lot of, I think we had one property, so it was like it was that around, say, March of 20, right? We had one property we were trying to sell, and then we actually didn't get as much for it as we thought. We came, this was all new to us. Now what do? We thought it was the end of the world. It's like, how are we going to navigate this? It's like, now we're still trying to buy properties. We're not getting as much for this one that's on the market. So we started like making like I think I told my partner at the time, start offering like 30% lower so we don't get stuck with stuff. And, we got through that first month, we sold the property. We didn't make as much as we thought we would, but we made some money on it. So and then after that, it was like, wow, COVID actually helped us. It was, all of a sudden we started buying properties and we were getting them for pretty good deals. And then all of a sudden, this fast forward 6 months, it's time to sell them. Man, the market went crazy and went through the roof. So it actually rewarded us because we bought stuff. We came out of COVID, like that first month, we sold the property. We're like, okay, maybe we can go back to our old offers. We didn't see anything too crazy going on. And then next thing you know, we acquired like 3 or 4 properties and we did really well. So COVID helped us out in the summer of 2020, and we just kind of picked up some speed and went into 21, and it just kind of kept building and building and building, and we started buying more properties. And then you get into 21 with things like you said, we got this crazy appreciation, and it kind of made up for some of the mistakes you made on the buying side, because you're speculating, right? You're buying a property based upon what you think it's worth in 3 or 4 months. Then you're putting in like you're using that number as a high mark, and then you're working your reverse engineering to the price you need to come up with. So you're basically have to figure out what the repair budget is, which is always over. It's never right on. So if you went over on the repairs, you kind of made up for it and then some on the appreciation on the other side. So I think it was probably one of the easiest markets to ever be in. I'm not claiming to be a genius, but all of us in the industry are saying like, wow, like the guys that I know, it's like you really you just got rewarded from just getting rewarded. It wasn't because you were super. I'm not a super smart guy. It just happened.
So even though COVID's happening and you see all these people on lockdown and we come out of COVID, you didn't anticipate this hyperinflation of the homes.
No, and now we're at a point. So we did. I mean, we thought a thing was gonna, like a house was gonna, we were gonna get, let's just say a 560, and all of a sudden you're getting like 630 for it. It wasn't because it just happened. I mean, interest rates were good. People wanted to buy, so you were getting rewarded for just I don't know. I almost want to say I don't want to say it's dumb luck, but it wasn't anything that I did. It just happened.
Right. So I'm not in the real estate industry by far, right? I'm a consumer of real estate at best, right?
Okay.
But I do talk to business owners on a regular basis, and I go to networking events all over the country. And I know I've recently met a real estate agent in Miami, LA, and you're in LA too, or San Diego is the other person I met in St. Louis. And like LA and Miami, seems to be like offers are coming in like $100,000 more than asking. In the St. Louis market, the real estate agents are saying $30,000 to $50,000 more than the asking price. Right. How long do you think that trend is going to stay in effect?
Well, it's interesting because I can only go off of what happened recently. So we just put a house up for sale in Commerce, which is like I'm in LA in Orange County. So Commerce is like a real small little town here, kind of just in the middle of Los Angeles, and we put it on the market for $750, and I just signed an offer right now for $799, right? So someone went $50,000 over asking price. So, as of today, people are paying more than you're putting on the market for, right? So that seems to be what's happening. We do have another house like in Long Beach that's on the market, and it's not as desirable as this one because it's closer to $1 million. So you've limited just even that extra $250,000, you're in a different price range. So that one's sitting a little longer, but it'll sell. We just have to wait a little longer to get rid of it. So yeah, that's what's going on. It just depends on where you're at. What I like kind of the stuff. Medium price here is in the 7s. I like the medium price. I don't like to really get above that, and because it just seems there's a lot of buyers available for that. But as far as when it's going to end, we don't have a crystal ball, but I've heard a couple different options. I'm kind of like at a point to where I don't really think that this thing's going to keep going up. I kind of feel like we're at a point to where it's like we kind of hit that ceiling. At least when I'm making my speculations into the future, because what I'm buying now, I have to look 3-4 months out. It's just not gonna, I'm not gonna buy it and sell it. It's not like I'm making hamburgers at a counter, right? So I'm kind of thinking like where we're at right now. I'm kind of looking at like that's what I'm looking forward to. The prices I think we're at right now. Where you get in trouble is you like just say I'm looking at a neighborhood for a comp to think what the future looks like, and I'm saying it's I see something 7. So I could hang my hat on the $700,000 value that I think this house is going to be comparable to this in 4 months or 3 months when it's ready, 2 months, whenever it's ready. I'm going to use the 700,000. I'm not going to be the guy that says, it's 7, but the market's going to keep going up. And, I'm going to think this thing in 4 months is going to be worth 800,000. So I can pay a lot more for the property. That's where you get in trouble, is you start paying too much for these properties. And I that's dangerous anyways,
Right. My crystal ball says that we're at about a plateau. If we're not there yet, we're really, really close. And I'm not a financial advisor at all, but I can tell you what I'm trying to talk my wife into doing, and that's selling our current home, renting an apartment for the next 3 or 4 years, and then rebuying a new home at that point, because there's no way in the world that my home is valued worth what they're currently valuing it. I don't think, at least, right? So there's going to be this market is going to correct itself at some point, or maybe this is the correction, right? We corrected on the high side because we took that big hit in 2008. I'm not really sure, but right now it definitely feels too good to be true. So I want to try to capitalize on it if I can. Now, I'm not going to talk my wife into doing that. So
yeah, that's not a bad idea. And I had a buddy that did that, and he was he was kind of heavily in stocks and stuff. So he saw this coming, and that's what he did. And he rented for about 3 or 4 years, and he ended up way better off on the other side. So there's a lot to be said about that. Now I tell my wife that sometimes, and she's I love my home. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not in love with it. Like I'm not attached to things. I mean, she's not.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of my house
either.
So.
But it just wouldn't work. I just think it's just like, so I agree with you, Ken. That's a great strategy. But yeah, there's a thing that's out there, and this is what I kind of gauge on based upon the guys that I follow. It's like affordability, right? So what's the affordability factor for people? And I'm talking about California because it could be different all over. We're a bubble state. Things are a lot more expensive out here. But generally, like in California, when affordability means what's the percentage of people that can afford afford this house, afford the payment? Once it gets into the into the high teens, like 19 to 17%, California's usually that's a signal that the run up is over, and then we're headed for a correction. Last I heard, we were somewhere in the 22, 23 range. So based upon that, we are really with the historic numbers that from a guy that named Bruce Norris that's been studying this for years. He feels like we're pretty close to like to the end of the run. So I'm gonna listen to him. He's a guy that's been proven, and I'm not gonna. I know there's a lot of other stuff out there, but like I said, it's just like if I'm gonna be buying something, I better make sure I'm getting it at a pretty good deal.
Absolutely, fantastic. I think that's great information. I think we're pretty close to the end of this real estate, if you want to call it a bull run or whatever you want to call it. I don't care, right? But we took a pretty good run up. I think the prices are going to dip a little bit. I don't think they're going to go back to where they were in 2008, but I think we're going to see somewhat of a correction here pretty soon. Hopefully we can run it through second quarter of 21 or 20. We're going into 22, second quarter of 22. Hopefully we get to keep it that long, but who knows, right?
That would serve me well where I'm at right now with what I got going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you got the crystal ball, I'm good. Then I can adjust after. But
I don't know if it's gonna last till second quarter of next year, but it might. It might go that far. Because right now people are buying these homes and the banks are backing them. So they've got some knowledge there, and I don't think the government's pulling too many strings on making home loans reasonable for everybody again. Right? They kind of learned their lesson there. So
interest rates are now are still historically low. I read the Fed's going to raise the rates 3 times. From what I read, I don't think it's going to get into the 4s. So it's still going to be pretty good interest rates historically, right? But people are so spoiled now that things have been in the 2s and in the low 3s. But what's interesting about what you brought up about about the last crash right there, like 2008ish. It's like, those mortgages were just basically given out to people that couldn't afford them. So you're right, the government hasn't loosened the restrictions too much on those and the lenders. So, some people think there's going to be a wave of foreclosures, and there's the other side of it is that some talk is like, and I kind of believe this myself. It's like there's a lot of people out there that might be. There's people out there. I don't know how many that are in foreclosure or they have forbearances and stuff. But I'm not too sure the government's or the lender is gonna let all that stuff go back into bank owned or REOs like they did before, because they tank their own market, right? So it might go back to the point to where they're just like, you know what, we have this stuff, but if we start foreclosing like crazy, it's going to tank the market. Maybe we'll pick the people that are 2 or 3 years out. We'll get them first, and they'll do it in a, you know.
And this one's a little different, right? The people that I know buying houses at $30,000 and $50,000 and even $100,000 over market value are computer scientists at Bear and executives at you know these companies, or you know they're well-paid people. They're not, you know, getting a loan and barely making the ends meet, right? Which is what was happening then. And we were oversold houses, right? I know I bought my first house at 23 years old, and 6 months later they're like, "Hey, do you want $100,000 cash? Your house has equity." And you know, at 24, I'm like, "Heck yeah, give it here," right? And then I blew it on stupid stuff like speakers and things. But
the stuff you buy when you're 20.
Yeah, the stupid stuff you buy when you're 24.
You had some cool speakers, right?
Yeah.
They're like those big JBL ones. And all, you know.
Yeah, so you know, I think those days are over when they're giving 23 and 25-year-old kids $50,000 and $100,000 because they have equity in their house, right? I think that's over, and that's not what we're seeing this time. But it is a little weird that people are paying that much more than the asking price today to make sure that they get that house. So, but moving on for the real estate market as a whole, do you have a mentor or somebody that you follow when you're inside your region that you really follow? And if you do, why is it that you follow that person's advice?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of people. The one guy in general. So, you know, I think over the last like 4 or 5 years, I've been involved with, you know, masterminds, right? You know what those are? They're just, you know, you pay to get in a group and you have a leader and then you meet. And now I'm more like so I am in a mastermind, but we meet once a week. And the guy, his name is Jerry Green, and he's out of Ohio, and he's just really good at he's really good at he not only does he you know flip 250 houses a year, which is great. So you got a guy that's doing the business and actually teaching you the business. He's just not acting like it, right? And what's good about Jerry is he has all the systems and processes and everything, you know, dialed in. So we meet once a week and we talk about different subjects, and he pushes us to, you know, raise the bar, and, you know, he's just a great resource to have. And be able to talk or text to him whenever I need him. So it doesn't get any better than that. It's really worth being in that. And then you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people, so it's awesome.
Absolutely, yeah. My mastermind, I live in St. Louis, but mastermind group's in San Diego. So I'm actually, my next one's in June that I fly out there for. But I do a lot of Zoom calls with the guys out there. But it's a marketing mastermind, right? So it's some of the best marketing guys on the planet in that. So it's a whole lot of fun. And the mastermind groups are expensive to get into, but I think they're very worthwhile in a lot of ways, right? Because you find like-minded people that you're going to be doing business with, correct?
Yeah, and it's funny, like, you know, like, so what we do as a team is we listen to, like, Darren Daly. So my team, what we do is every morning at 8:30, everybody's got an email waiting. They listen to, you know, a little 5-minute clip from Darren Hardy, and then we talk about it at our daily meeting that we call it Daily Huddle, 8:45. So today's topic was about Darren Hardy was at a Brian Tracy event when he was like 18. He was in the front taking notes, he said. And I guess at the break, Brian Tracy came up to him and says, "Hey, I can tell you're taking a lot of notes. You're going to be really successful. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to, you know, write down that you're going to invest 10% of what you make in yourself, and then you're going to like give 10% for tithing. But the 10% in yourself is the mastermind theory, right? You're going to be investing. I'm investing money in myself, and then actually now to my team, because they have access. You know, we do have group calls too, so it's huge. And honestly, I didn't go to college. I wasn't that type of guy, but I probably spent just as much on education than people that have gone to college, right? So I'm always, you know, buying stuff and doing it and doing more, just, you know, constantly learning. That's how that's funny. When I actually started studying this in 2009, my son was born, and my wife's like, "What are you reading all the time? What are you doing?" And I was like, I'm just trying to learn something new. And that's where it all started. It just lit the fire, you know? So you can never, you know, never, what's the saying? You can't never know too much. You know,
You can't. Always be learning is one of my core values. And now on the college side, I'm with you. College was not my jam, but I am fortunate enough to I've dropped out of some of the best colleges in the country. I went to Washington University, and I had a full ride, and I screwed it up. I dropped out after my first year. I transferred to Webster, and I dropped out after my first day. But
that sounds like me. Yeah,
school is not my jam by far. I did get an associate's degree, but I did not finish that bachelor's. I'm probably 8 credits away, but that was almost 30 years ago. So let's just let that one sit there.
That's some of the best advice I ever got was that I went to so I got out of high school. I got a job as a Volkswagen mechanic because that's what I wanted to be, right? I was a mechanical.
Right.
Then I didn't, 6 months I figured out this is a dead end job. You know you're in trouble when everybody that you work with tells you what are you working here for when you're 18, right? Go do something else. So then my next option was I have to go to school because my dad said you either go get a job or go to school. So I tried to go to school. And I was at the local local junior college over here, Harvard College, and I wrote a paper, and I wasn't good at that anyways. And the professor, whoever she was, she pulled me aside and she's like, "Do you want to be here?" And I says, "Nah, I don't want to be here, but I either have to go to school or get a job. I worked a little bit. I think I want to work, but I'm here because I gotta have a place to live, and this is part of what my dad told me." And then at the end of the day, she goes, "You know what? You seem like a pretty smart guy, and I think you do real well in life, but you don't want to be here, so just do us both a favor. Don't come back." I said, "Thank you."
I have a very similar story. Yeah, I transferred to Webster for film school because WashU didn't have film school. And my professor's like, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, "Well, I want to make movies." He's like, "You already know how to make movies. What are you doing here? Go make movies."
Yeah.
Right? So I went and I actually got second place Kansas Film Festival that next year.
Oh, that's great, man.
But
yeah, that's why. I mean, I'm so glad I met that lady.
Yeah, it's so we do hire college educated people, but my philosophy is that college teaches you how to learn from other people, and then self-taught people, they can learn on their own. And that's really what you need. And as an entrepreneur or a business person, you need somebody that can teach themselves how to move forward and not necessarily have a classroom, but you have to create an environment where all those kinds of people can work with you and excel inside of your environment. So going on to I think this is my final question. I'm not sure though, because it might prompt some more. Sure. Oh no, I've got another question that we talked about prior to this. So we're big on the marketing side and Clicks and Bricks. We like to talk about marketing for businesses. And we had a little bit of a conversation before we jumped on the show about your cost per acquisition. So your cost, not your cost to acquire the home, but your cost to get to the contract stage of that home, right? What your marketing cost of buying a home is, and kind of what are some of the strategies that you use. Now, the reason we're talking about the cost to market of buying the home, because John, that's where most of your cost is on the marketing side. We know that selling a home is a fix. It's either 3% if you're for sale by owner, up to 6% on the high side if you got a really fancy agency, and you've got all that figured out. So it's kind of a fixed cost, but the marketing budget to buy a home, that can be kind of all over the place. Can you give us a little bit of insight there?
Yeah, so what we do for marketing, so we've done it all. I mean, I've done cold calling, I've done mail, I've done ringless voicemail, texting, right? So we've been through all that. That's labor intensive, and it just basically, and it didn't work very well for us here in LA. So what we do is we do SEO, right, through Google. So we have a website that we're constantly working on and putting content out there and trying to draw people to that website to fill out a form or call us. And then we do pay-per-click, and which is basically just trying to get in front of people on the top of the page. So we do that. We do some Facebook advertising. So we're kind of big on the digital marketing side of things, right? So what happens there is that we send that out, people call in, we ask them some questions and just have Peggy does in sales and has a conversation with them. And then, after we kind of go through maybe hopefully anywhere on the low end, on a good number, talk to 10 people, get a contract. On a higher end, maybe 15 people. So you got to have 10 to 15 leads to get a contract. And then we generally spend about $5,000 to $7,000 on marketing to get that particular contract. That's what our KPI is.
Okay, so $5,000 to $7,000, and that's Google Ads, Facebook ads, SEO engine stuff that you're paying somebody to constantly be writing articles and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you also do billboards or TV or anything along those lines?
No, we haven't, because billboards, I think, are just billboards people are flying by. So billboard would be my take on a billboard. Is what I've heard from people. It's a good representation of your company. So people are driving by, it's brand recognition, right?
Right.
but not really a direct response type of thing. So maybe someone they see you all the time up there and they Google you and then you show up. So no,
right.
We're not. And then TV's kind of it's not saturated here, but there's guys that are on TV here that are on TV, right? So we haven't gone down the TV route yet. It's rather expensive in this market. In my mastermind, some guys are going to do it in some other markets that might be a little cheaper. So that we haven't said no to that yet. I think that's maybe we'll look at that a little bit in next year. Maybe
right.
Look at the budget a little bit. So no, we're just basically just doing the digital thing. And then what we're big on too is we're big on providing a great service for people. And then after we do great service for people and we do everything that we're say we're going to do based on our core values and just good business practices, then we get testimonials for people. And then we put them on our Facebook and our Google, and then that's bringing people to us too. Just the fact that we have good our social proof is really important to us too.
Absolutely. So all your social media, if the more you can post on social media that you don't pay for, it's basically free advertising. And if you can do something like, so if I were doing that, I would definitely take a picture with every person that I bought a house from with a giant check and post that on Facebook and LinkedIn and all those places and have that absolutely free. And they're going to share it with their friends and family too, right? This is how you do word of mouth in 2022, right? You take a picture of you with that person doing something really cool and you share it, and then they can share it out to the rest of their people. And then hopefully that strikes up a conversation at dinner this Saturday night or something like that, right? Oh, I saw that picture of you this weekend. How did that go, right? That's a great way to do it. And the more original content you can create around your business and post it on the social media channels for absolutely free, the better. But there's a time that you need to pay to play as well. And that sounds like you're definitely jumping in there as well.
Yeah, and the social media part of it is like, what we do have, it's funny, we did take one guy, he was an older guy, so he liked coming in the office. He's in town here. So we actually, he had his check, and most people get wires now. But anyways, it's just funny, like with COVID, it's been harder to get next to people.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of what we do. People, we buy their house, we pay cash. We do not bring a lot of people into the house. If we do have to bring some contractors, we'll control. So people like that because they're not bringing they're not having open houses, and they don't have to deal with that part of the business. So what we've been doing a lot too is we've been doing a lot we're doing right here. Ricky calls up, Zooms them up, and then we get a good testimonial on Zoom. So, and then, the Google written, this 5-star review and all that other kind of stuff. So yeah, it's cool. I look forward when this is over, we can actually start getting closer to people and taking some new pictures. Cause I do have some pictures, but they were from, back then too. And I'm kind of hands off on that side. I'm not really involved with the sales. So they, Ricky and Peggy are involved. So a lot of that stuff, I don't meet the people a lot. Or sometimes I do. It depends on what's going on. So. Right.
And my tip for everybody out there on Facebook, what John has is he's got the key players that are on the TV and the billboards out there. Inside Facebook, you can run an ad and target people that like those audiences, right? So you can, if there's a main player in your town that does something that's spending a lot of money on advertising, you can absolutely create a Facebook ad and target the people that like that person in your community and absolutely piggyback on their traffic, right? Because now their fans will start seeing you inside Facebook, and you get a lot of benefits of their bandwagoning advertising on the television and the billboards and stuff as well. So it's a great tip to try to get a little bit of leverage when you're the underdog in the marketing world.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, and then all that kind of social proof goes, success stories that you write, and people videos about people talking about your company, how great it was, and people look at that stuff. And it's funny, in my mastermind, I've been telling guys that it's like, some guys want to start running TV ads. I'm like, hey, that's great, you're going to run some TV ads, but if you don't have a social presence, it's probably going to hurt you because people are going to want to check you out.
78% of the people today in America research a business online through social media before they decide to make a purchase from them. So if they're looking at your social media profiles and they're seeing crickets, it's not a good sign. It's just not. They think you're a fly-by-night company, that you're not active. I've seen people, say, hey, are you closed? Right? Those kinds of comments. So it's really bad. I know that, it's tedious to be posting on a regular basis on these social media platforms, but there's lots of tools out there that you can use. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a buzz. I'm more than happy to help you out here. It's important to do. And you just got to get it done. And I've got a lot of tips and tricks on how to get that done. But moving forward, how do you see technology changing your specific industry in the future? And you can go out 5, 10, 50, or even 100 years if you've got some really crazy ideas about how the future is going to hold for, the buying and selling of real estate.
Yeah, I think, the more we, like, even right now, you have a lot of these companies now coming in, and they're just trying to change the way that, like, the traditional people do real estate, right? Where you hire an agent, they have an open house, they bring you the offers, then they do, then you have to wait for these, there's an appraisal contingency, there's a repair contingency, and then you have to hope that all that goes well. There might be some negotiation, and then and then all of a sudden it's like okay, you close your house if everything lines up right. Maybe anywhere from from when you sign up 45 days to 60 days. I think right now what's happening too is a lot of people really like the fact that people like my company could come in, pay cash for the house, not use a realtor, not really have any contingencies, get those out of the way right from the beginning, and basically just leave everything they want behind, with basically whatever they don't want to take with them, they can leave behind. Heck, I got a house up the street, still have food in the refrigerator, right? It just left. I'm cracking up. We're over there looking at it right now, like an hour ago. We're like, hey, we can make something to eat. It's so the traditional way of doing things, some people are just getting they're just kind of moving away from that. So I think that's one thing right now that's really is changing, is that people can sell their house without having to go through all that kind of stuff. And then on my side, I think on the marketing side of things, it's just so wild how you can the data that's out there that's for sale, and you can really target a market, a niche that you really want to go after. And it's all for sale because we've been giving all these people our information for so long that they turn it into a business, right? And it's just crazy the stuff that you can find out about people. I'm not doing that right now. I don't really get that. I'm not really, skip tracing numbers and doing all that. As far as skip tracing is where you can really find out who owns a house and get all the personal information from them. I'm not really doing that because people are calling us, right? And that we're not really getting deep into that kind of stuff. But you can buy a list. You can get 5 lists of distressed lists that we call from people that are in foreclosure and behind their mortgage. You can, maybe they haven't made their utility payments and a couple other, points. You could take those lists and put them on top of each other and then see who's, wow, John Medina's on 5 lists. Let's call him right away. Ken's only on 1. He's probably not going to be as distressed, might not be in a hurry to sell his house with 1 list. So there's just so much technology out there, which you could, platforms that you can find out about people, and it depends on what you got to do.
Yeah, for me, I know I've got a handicapped son, so having the walkthroughs of a home and things like that are just a no-go for us, right? Where there's no way that we're moving. We have to buy a new house and move to it and then sell our old one, or get some kind of cash offer like what you're talking about, because the stress of selling our home and having people walk through it while he was there would just be astronomical. It just wouldn't work, right? So I think that's a great thing that you're doing for a lot of the community that just can't have that kind of traditional sale, right? For anxiety issues or whatever, right? Or there's speed, right? I got a new job. Right now, people are getting jobs all over the world and they're moving, right? They're working in Silicon Valley and they're moving to Idaho at lower real estate prices, but they're still getting their California money and they're living in Idaho, which I think is a phenomenal trend. And it's going to be an interesting thing to watch over the next few years. I know also that big corporations like Airbnb and Zillow, I'm reading that those giant corporations are starting to buy these single family homes. Do you have any input on that?
Yeah, well, Airbnb is a strategy. I don't particularly use it, but it's heck, that's just huge, right? What people are doing with that. And I think even people are buying houses, investors are, and they're using them for Airbnb. There's a couple in my neighborhood, and you can see because there's always new people coming in and out. So that's actually a great way for cash flow, to manage them and stuff. And then, interesting about Zillow. Zillow was in our space as far as buying and selling a house, buying houses for cash. They weren't very good at it. They lost $300 million and they stopped doing it.
Oh, so Zillow's already out of the game.
Yeah, they quit. Yeah, they were in and out. They lost $300 million and they decided that was enough.
Wow, are they still holding the property? What happened to all that property?
I don't know if this was about 3 months ago. They bowed out, so they were going to sell them to some hedge fund or maybe some bigger investors, like, you know, the guys that are, you know, guys that have maybe hedge fund money, and they're gonna like St. Louis, they probably own something. There's a good rental market in St. Louis, so they're probably one of the big hedge funds probably bought them up and put them in their portfolio.
Do you think that might be part of the drive-up factor on why people are getting way more than the asking value for their homes, is that you had giant corporations like Zillow in the game?
Yeah, I mean, that could have been it too, because I was understanding that, you know, every time that you buy a property in a neighborhood, you create a new comp. So that was one of their strategies. I didn't see, I don't know about around here, but in other markets, they were just trying to buy everything in a subdivision because they just kept driving the price up. Right. So you know, they bought them for $5, and then all of a sudden it's like, now all of a sudden they bought the other for $5.10. They just kept, but it wasn't sustainable. It just, you know,
that's a classic case of competing against yourself, right?
Yeah,
they were so aggressive they ended up competing against themselves.
Yeah, because their algorithm was off. You know, by $300 million.
$300 million. That's a lot. I would be in a lot of trouble if I lost that much money. Actually, probably not. The government would take care of it for you. Right? Fantastic. So if somebody's in California and they wanted to get rid of their house, how would they get in contact with you?
They can go to our website. It's johnmedinabuysHouses.com. And there's a phone number on there. There's 310-928-9688. And then we're all over, you know, John Medina Buys Houses on Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of good stuff. But the website's probably the easiest way to, you know, to get a hold of us. And then Peggy will either answer the phone or get right back to you from the web form, and she'll have a nice conversation, treat you fairly. And, you know, if it's a good fit for you and a good fit for us, you know, it's perfect. And if not, we just, like we tell people, hey, you know, if it's not a good fit for both of us, it's, you know, we'll wish you well and you know, hope the best for you. So it's really easy.
Fantastic, John. Thank you so much for your time today. I think it was a wealth of knowledge for the audience. Before we go today, is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with?
Don't give up. Like, if you have something you're doing, if this is like you're flipping houses, and, you know, it hasn't been, you know, hey, believe me, not everything's successful, but don't quit. You know, just keep failing forward. And just don't quit and work hard. You know, this is a very hard, anything in life is, you know, it just takes persistence and hard work, and just go for it. Don't ever stop. And if you know you want something, don't stop until you get it. That's probably the best thing I can say. Absolutely.
Thank you for your time today, John. I very much appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Ken. I appreciate it too.
That's it for today's show, folks. Again, my name is Ken. If you'd like to join my text line community, 314-370-2871. You can send me any question you want about business or technology, and I'll give you an absolutely free, unbiased opinion. That's it for today. Get to work.